Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Melanie Cassar, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Flight Lieutenant Natasha Davies. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Club Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Edward John Colbert. Edward Colbert was born in Kapunda, South Australia on the 16th of December 1892, the second of 3 surviving sons of James and Sarah Colbert. Colbert grew up around Kapunda and attended the Dominican convent school. By the time the First World War began, he was working as a farm labourer on his family's property. He enlisted for service in the Australian Imperial Force at Adelaide on the 18th of August 1915. After initial training, he was allotted to the 8th Reinforcements to the 27th Battalion. On the 12th of January 1916, he embarked, along with other reinforcements from Outer Harbour, Adelaide, aboard the transport ship Border, bound for Egypt. After arriving in Egypt, Colbert was transferred to the 10th Battalion. After further training in late March, he embarked with his battalion for the war in France. The 10th Battalion was sent to Strazel for further training and entered the front line for the first time in early June. On the 22nd of June, Colbert was evacuated and hospitalised with an abscess on his right thigh. After being treated, he was sent to Boulogne to recuperate. Colbert returned to the 10th Battalion at the beginning of September. At this time, the battalion was in the Ypres sector, having been heavily involved in the battles of Pozières and Mouquet Farm. In October, the 10th Battalion returned to the Somme and took over positions near Goudecourt. With the onset of winter, the weather became wet and cold. Trenches became muddy and more unpleasant. On the 12th of November, Colbert was evacuated, suffering from trench feet. He was away from the battalion for 5 weeks while he recovered. In February 1917, the Germans began withdrawing to their prepared fortifications known as the Hindenburg Line. The Australians were involved in the follow-up operations, and by early April, the 10th Battalion was occupying frontline positions near Luderville. In the early hours of the 15th of April, the Germans launched a heavy attack along the Australian line, which the 10th Battalion was involved in repelling. The Australians suffered 1,000 casualties. Among the dead was Edward Colbert. His body was recovered and laid to rest in the Mouves Communal Cemetery Extension near Canberra. He was 25 years old. The Colbert family had already suffered loss during the war. Edward's brother William had died of illness in Egypt in September 1915 before he could reach Gallipoli. Edward Colbert's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Edward John Colbert, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.